You guys are running for re-election. There's 4 of you. Keep Hiremath, Hornet, Snyder, and Waters, ovleadership.com. And why in the world would you put yourself through that again, sir? When you did the State of the City address last year, you kind of choked up at the end when you were thanking your family for sticking with you, because you take a lot of darts and arrows, man.
Yeah, it's it gets very frustrating, and just to see the support system that I have behind me, kind of have to go through all that trials and tribulations day in and day out. It's tough. It's tough, and you asked me a question. I think I have rocks in my head, to be honest with you, rerunning for a third term. But no, to be honest with you, on a serious note, we have a unified council right now. There's the opportunity for me to finish some things that I still need to get done, and I think this term is actually going to be the opportunity to do it if the residents of Oro Valley reelect me. We have a great system, right? In the absence of a property tax, we've created a mechanism through relationship building that we have been able to weather a very severe recessionary storm, the worst one in Oro Valley's history, certainly, since it was incorporated in 1974, to where, over the last 7 years, we've generated $13 million in surplus that we've been able to kind of reinvest in the community to put the infrastructure in around a park site, our pavement preservation program, which got a shout-out. I don't know if you saw it in Sunday's paper when Chuck Huckleberry was talking about Pima County bonding. Oro Valley was there about the pavement preservation, and that's something that Mary Lou Joe and I and Steve Solomon actually instituted. And I remember that conversation very clearly. They were talking about, we don't even have food to put on the table. We're losing our jobs, and you want to put 1.2 into pavement preservation? And, flash forward to 8 years later, not only do we have great pavement preservation, but we got a beautiful community.
Ain't that the truth? You said a lot there, and I did see that in the paper. And Mary Jacobs was quoted about, how Oro Valley, like you said, we take care of our roads in Oro Valley. And that's something that you instituted back in the day, and it's paid off. Marana does the same thing. So what happens if Pima County supervisors somehow come to some sort of agreement, or Chuck Huckleberry and the Pima County supervisors put another bond in front of Pima County voters? What's an Oro Valley resident to do? Because, I have good roads around my apartment, and when I'm driving north through Oro Valley reading all of the campaign signs, it's pretty entertaining. And then I don't need better roads in Oro Valley. I have them. So
no, you don't. But, keep in mind, Mike, too, that, we take $1.2 million out of our general fund.
Right.
And so basically, if the bond goes through, Oro Valley actually gets that I think it's going to be $1.5 million.
You get your money back? We get our money back?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And that's exactly what it comes down to. But fortunately, to your point, leadership is about making those very tough decisions, and I think that we've done a great job in trying to provide all the services that we provide and still balancing a budget with a surplus. So for us, we have equal skin in the game as far as, we don't have to use general fund money anymore, and so that's definitely a big plus for us.
Yeah, so Marana does this too, right? Marana pays for road overhead out of the general fund, and then they take whatever HERF monies they get and that sort of thing. That goes directly to roads, and that's what we're doing in Oro Valley as well, right?
Absolutely, and it goes back to that is leadership. If you think about that time that we had to make those decisions, both the Marana Council, Town of Oro Valley Council. And, to sit there and stand strong and stand tall and say no, because what's going to happen is that when the economy turns around, our roads are going to be so far gone. To give you an example, our town engineer, Craig Cavalier at the time, told us that if we don't put $1.2 million over 5 years, which is $6 million total, that number, if we didn't invest $6 million in 5 years would be $64 million.
Right. Well, and that's why
it's an astronomical number.
Yeah.
It's an exponential jump.
Right. Well, and that's what's happened to the county. So, what could have been manageable had it been handled all along is jumped to $1 billion problem. And, we have to find a solution. I'm just, was curious as an Oro Valley resident, if I just stay in the neighborhood, I'm good. That's all I'm saying. Right. Hey, I thought I was going to research this, but I haven't found it. But I remember reading somewhere you have not yet approved the budget, but soon. Is that right? Or you just did?
No, incorrect. We approved the final budget last council meeting.
That's what. Okay.
Yep, and so we're good to go. And the budget is reflective. I think, we get criticized by our challengers to say that that budget has gone from $128 million to $142 million, and the political soundbite is great, right? Government bloated budgets and wasteful spending. But the reality is I think our CPA, Stacy Lemos, actually did the analysis. I think 83% of that increase is from revenue that we're stockpiling for projects. So, for instance, the RTA, the LaTroy widening project, that's $15 million that we had to put into our budget. And I think that's what people don't understand. A budget is reflective of all revenue and all expenses. And so it's a little bit disingenuous to say that, we're wasteful spending and the budget is ballooning out of control. And I heard your segment a little bit earlier about, just people getting to post what they want to post with no accountability.
Yeah.
With all these blogging sites out there and Facebook and things like that. And that's what makes this election a very dangerous election, Mike, is that you have individuals that really don't have to have any accountability. You can say what they want to say, and then how do you combat that, right? But the truth of the matter is that we have a balanced budget with a surplus. We have number one public safety in the state of Arizona, best city to live in the state of Arizona, great arts and culture, great educational choices. Just pavement preservation, parks and recreation. So all that, and even the golf course is slated to break money or break even and actually end up with a little bit of a surplus after 3 short years, Mike.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, you're teeing up the questions for me because I thought golf might come up. So I'm going to take the break, and then when we come back, let's talk about that whole golf thing and whether we have nine holes less or what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Satish Hiremath, he's a dentist, so he's my dentist. So I just call him Dr. Mayor Hiremath. Your calls, too, if you like, 790-2040. Dr. Mayor, stay right there. We'll be right back.
Will do.
The second hour, AM 1030 KVOI, The Voice. I'm Mike. Bob on the other side of the glass. Ray on a much-deserved vacation. And we'll get details.
Is that where Ray went? Hey, actually, Bob and I were just talking when we were offline.
Yeah.
He and I actually know each other. Desert DJs.
Desert DJs, man. That's Bob.
Yeah. They do a phenomenal job. I see them at the Arizona Distance Classic, which is one of our signature events here in the town of Oro Valley, and they do a bang-up job. And
by they, you mean Bob, because I think it's just Bob.
No, there's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of it. You always end up working with my wife up at the 25 or the 50-mile event? Is that right?
Yes, correct.
The one that starts in Oro Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then Bob's spinning the tunes.
He is spinning the tunes.
Does it get real loud, Bob? Do you play loud music?
Well, there's city ordinances, Michael, that we have to adhere to.
Smart man.
Gee whiz.
Smart man.
Who do you think we're talking to here?
Smart man.
This is not Zuckerberg.
That's true. All right. Hey, Dr. Mayor Satish Hiremath, Mayor of Oro Valley, since you brought up golf. Well, first of all, I want to, do you have a campaign website?
I do. It's Hiremath for Mayor.
What did you have, like committees stay up all night coming up with that?
Yeah, I'm a very simple man. You can actually go to satishhiremath.com and that takes you right to my website.
Okay. So I dialed it up right now, so we'll see what loads up here. So all right, so while we're talking, I would hate to not be an incumbent running in this race because of all the success that Oro Valley has had over the years and under the current leadership for the most part. And so what the opposition has to do is go negative. And that's a thing that happens in Oro Valley. There's something in the water. I don't know what it is. You guys survived a recall election. That wasn't that long ago. And then
15.
Yeah, right. And then, I'm going to be driving around town just to check out the campaign signs because they're a hoot. But the one thing that they point to and the one thing that they hated from the beginning and they continue to rail against is the buying of the golf courses.
Right. And you notice how I intentionally kind of baited you a little bit, so I do apologize about that.
No, that's fine.
I actually did say golf course. Well, the reality is that we didn't purchase a golf course, right? Because it was a community center, 320-plus acres, 31 tennis courts. And to give you an idea, one tennis court costs $250,000 to build.
And this isn't just any tennis court, right? This is a great tennis court.
No. I mean, these are championship tennis courts as graded by the United States Tennis Association, the USTA. Yes. And then you got 2 pools and a restaurant, and of course 45 holes of golf, right? And so, but that's where they're going to be the most effective, Mike, is to actually single out the golf course. The reality of it is that if we could have parceled it off, we would have.
Right.
But the reality is it's a package deal. And so what would the residents have us do? Very similar to what's happening at the Golf Club of Vistosa. 3 years earlier, it was a take it or leave it. But the great news financially is that, just after 3 years, we're slated to break even in the entire community center fund, which is inclusive of the golf, this year. June 30th.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 3 years ahead of what my personal schedule was. But, again, political sound bites, golf is a dying sport. And, they have to latch onto something. And I think, that's one thing that's really disappointing is that I would have thought after 8 years that we would have been kind of over this negativity. But it's kind of disheartening to a certain extent. And, but we plan on basically just continuing to do what we need to do because it is about property values, right? It's about open space.
Right.
It's about really quality of life. And all those things combined together is exactly what we have under the current leadership.
Yeah, that's all true. So, like, for $1 million, you got however many acres it was of land that is now golf.
About 324.
324 acres. And then you got the community center as part of the deal, the pools that you talk about, the championship tennis courts, all for $1 million. 3 easy payments with no interest.
Which we paid off in 2 years and 1 day because we're on a fiscal year. So we made our first payment July 15, 16, and then July 1 and 17. So 2 years and 1 day, we paid it off in cash.
Now, the thing that I was least comfortable with, and it's something that the other side is going to point to, and it does point to, is the half-cent sales tax. And I don't like increasing taxes, but I also understood, when you presented it, you and the other leadership of the town presented it as, hey, we're going to spend like $22 million for a community center because the community says they want one. This half-cent sales tax will help us to do upgrades to the community center and to the golf, and we're only paying $1 million for all this stuff. So when it was explained to me that way, I was, okay. But when the opposition talks about golf, they don't talk about the revenue from the half-cent sales tax to make it sound worse than it is.
No, and see, that's the disingenuity that I speak about. They're being very disingenuous because what they do is they set the expense. It's a very simple formula: revenue plus expense equals bank account. And when you only single the expense and say that, hey, they're spending $6.8 million, which is a number that they like to throw around, which is true, but they forget the $6.8 million in revenue. And so you're exactly correct in that sense. And so the issue becomes, again, they love to single out that tax and say, regardless of how you feel, government shouldn't be in the private sector business, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a separate conversation. But the reality is government exists to provide services, right? And so basically tax money that we get, impact fees, construction fees, all the revenue coming in, government exists to provide service. And again, they provide core services such as public safety, roads, parks and recreation, water delivery, and we do those exceptionally well. And then they provide other ancillary services like transportation for the elderly, summer camps for the disabled, et cetera, et cetera. And so what they like to do is to single out that half-cent sales tax and then talk about how we compete with private business. But it's a much more complicated web because you get sales tax off of these tournaments. You get bet tax off of these tournaments.
Right.
They got to eat somewhere, right?
Well,
They got to sleep somewhere.
Right. It's like 30% of sales tax is paid by non-residents.
That's correct. Right now, the formula is it's about roughly a third of it comes from a non-resident, and what we 7 on the council are trying to do is to make Oro Valley an end destination to where that number jumps to 45 or even 50 cents on the dollar. So for the very services that we enjoy, and I mentioned public safety, roads, et cetera, right now, a third of it comes from a non-resident, and what we're trying to do is to get that number up to 50%.
Yeah. I like it. We just have a couple minutes left because the time screams by quickly. But I want to ask about Naranja Park.
Sure.
Oro Valley residents really rejected that bond to do all the improvements. But at the same time, you guys, stuck to from the very beginning. It's like, well, if the voters want this, because we've heard concern, so we'll put it out in front of the voters and see what happens. And if it doesn't pass, we'll still continue to improve the park as we go. And that's been happening. And it's those fields, those soccer fields are, if they're good enough for MLS teams, what the heck?
Well, and see, that's the thing, too. And so for us, it really was no skin off our back because we knew that we just had a pay-as-you-go plan. And so the issue became, well, some residents came up to us and said, look, we need to build this much quicker than what your time frame is. And I said, look, our job as a council, we can only put it on the ballot. We can't vote yes, we can't vote no, we just put it on the ballot. Residents spoke. And so now we're having another, I think, 350 to 450,000 to renovate the James Krieg baseball fields.
Nice.
The challengers actually, they have 3 things that they want to do: put a moratorium on growth, and they want to close the golf course down and basically make it into open space, and they want playground equipment for Naranja Park. Those are the 3 things they're running on. Well, we have it in the budget for next year for $350,000 for playground equipment for Naranja Park.
Yeah.
And so, again, it is a pay-as-you-go approach, and, this council has been running surplus budgets, and we're doing a remarkable job.
So, Naranja Park, talk about the 4th of July, because it's coming up, and that's going to be a party, isn't it?
That is going to be a huge party. So it's a 4th of July event. We'll have food trucks out there, games for the kids, obviously incredible fireworks. And then don't forget, Mike, I think it's the 13th or 14th of October, the iHeart Radio Music Festival is being relocated from the Golf Club of Vistoso to Naranja Park.
No kidding.
Well.
They get some great bands in here. Didn't they have Train one year? And Kobe Calais.
Last year. They had Train
last year. I love Train. Kobe Calais was down.
That was the year before.
There's some big names. So that's a really kind of a big deal.
It is. It is a big deal. Oro Valley is just such a great community, and that's closing the loop. And I only got a few seconds left. That's actually why I'm rerunning, is to make sure that the path that we have continues in perpetuity in the future. And it's my job to make sure that we're structurally sound, we're fiscally responsible, and we have the mechanisms for any other mayor and council to come in and just kind of seamlessly go into there without a property tax. We all ran on the fundamental premise that we would not institute a property tax to balance the budget, and 8 years later we have kept that promise.
It's really good stuff, and I guess I'll just throw in there on a personal note, you're an exceptionally kind man. You do free dental work for kids all the time, and that just scratches the surface of just the service. That's just who you are. So whether you're serving as mayor or not, you're always going to be serving our town anyway. So I just
that
really
very much, Mike.
Well, I appreciate it too. So, and we'll have your opponent on too, and see what he's about, because that's what we do. Hiremathformayor.com or satishhiremath.com. Check it out there, and if you want to get involved in the campaign, if you're so reclined, most campaigns encourage that sort of thing. So,
absolutely.
Very good. Mr. Mayor, thank you again for your service. We're the best town in Arizona and really the country for a reason.
I hear you. Mike, it's always a pleasure. Bob, great speaking with you.
You bet, Doctor.
All right, man. Tell OVPD I'll be on my way up the hill in about a half hour. Just give him a heads up.
Do, Mike.
All right, thanks, man. All right.
Bye.
Dr. Mayor Satish Hiremath, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's take a break.